Oi, oi, oi! Oi, gente, tudo bom? Hello, everyone! Welcome to this Q&A. I'm very excited to be here with you today. I missed you guys. I haven't seen you in a while. Tudo bom, Margus, Mônica, Cynthia, James? Tudo bom, Jacob, Joseph? E aí, gente, tudo bom? How are you, Leah? Okay, I'm very happy to be here with you today. So, if you're new to my channel, I want you to know that I host this Q&A once a month in this channel and also on my Instagram account. So once a month, always on the first Thursday of the month, okay? So if you have not joined my newsletters yet, I recommend you do so, receive notifications about this Q&As and also any other classes that I teach online, okay? Tudo bom, Olivia, Samira, Charles? Tudo bom, Ari, Jackson? That's amazing, guys. I'm glad you could join me today. Miriam, oi, Jacob. Okay, so today in this Q&As, we are going to review some points, some topics that I covered in my latest videos. So the videos that I published the last few weeks. Okay, now I'm also available to answer your questions. So the best way that you can participate in these Q&As is to watch my previous videos, like the last 3 or 4 videos that I published, and bring your questions, because if you bring me questions, I can help you. If you don't bring me questions, it's harder for me to help you because I'm not sure what your issues are, okay? Tudo bom, James? Okay, so to ask questions, if you have questions, you can already start thinking about it. You should type in the comments. If you're watching me on Instagram, you should click on the question mark tool, okay? There's a question mark tool because it is really hard for me to read your comments. So click on the question mark so I can read your question. And if you are on YouTube, if I don't read your question, you can post it more than one time. Or when I say, okay, now I'm gonna read your questions, you can just copy and paste, okay? It is hard for me to scroll up and see all your comments, tá bem? Muito bom, gente. I'm checking here my notes. So if you want to support my channel, I would like to invite you to join the Speaking Brazilian YouTube Club. The Speaking Brazilian YouTube Club is a course page that I created where I placed all my videos in the order that I recommend that you watch them. I have almost 200 videos available on my YouTube, but they are not organized, right? So I created this course to organize my videos. And I also you also have access to a transcript of each video in Portuguese and English so you can study the material, okay? If you want to support my channel, you can join that program and you can try it for free for 1 week. So just go to my website to check it out, speakingbrasilian.com, tá bem? Muito bom, gente. So let's start talking about the topics that I covered in the last videos. So the last one, let's go back talking about the last one, which was a video about verbs dizer, falar, and contar. So have you watched this video, guys? This topic is interesting even for Brazilians. You know, Brazilians, they mix these verbs a little bit, but it's normal in colloquial language. The two verbs, falar and dizer, are usually used as synonyms, although they are not synonyms. But it is very common in Brazil. We use these two verbs as synonyms. It's okay. So don't worry about that. However, sometimes you have to use one or the other, okay? So pay attention to that. So verb falar, the main difference is that verb falar, if you speak English, if you're watching this Q&A, you probably speak or understand English, right? So the verb falar means to speak or to talk, right? And the verb dizer means to say. But as I said, Brazilians, we mix these two verbs. We use them interchangeably most of the time. And the verb contar means to tell. But also verb contar and dizer, sometimes they can be used interchangeably. So let's practice a little bit instead of teaching you, explaining all the details, because there are many details, so I recommend you watch the video. I want you to practice a little bit so I can read your comments and maybe see a mistake and give you feedback on your Portuguese. So write me a comment right now using one of these verbs, falar, dizer, and contar. Let's practice a little bit, and then I'm going to read some of the comments, and I'm going to try to give you feedback and help you with the Portuguese, tá bem? Dizer, falar, contar. Write me a comment using one of these verbs, or the three of them. Let me see. So I have a question for Margus. It is, o que significa the word se at the end of a word, right? Like inscrever-se, tornar-se, lembrar-se. So usually when we write a verb, so all those verbs that you wrote, Margus, they are in their infinitive form. So the infinitive form of the verb is the way that we call the verbs that are not conjugated, okay? They are not conjugated for the person, like eu, você, ele, ela. It's just like the main form of the verb. When you write a verb with the se at the end, it indicates that these verbs, they are reflexive pronominal verbs. Reflexive or pronominal verbs, which means that we have to use the pronoun. I have a video about pronominal verbs on my YouTube channel, so I recommend. This is also a long topic, so to learn how to use these verbs, there is not a simple rule like, oh, these verbs, they are pronominal, these verbs are not pronominal. It really depends. Some verbs, that they can be pronominal or not, depending on the case. It changes the meaning a little bit. So to learn a little bit more about this topic, I recommend you watch my video, go to my YouTube channel and type Speaking Brazilian Pronominal. If you use the word pronominal, you'll find this video about pronominal verbs, and in that video I explain all the details about pronominal verbs, what is a pronominal verb, and how to use them. Okay, so, and then if you have a more specific question, I can answer you, but how to use these verbs is a very broad question. Tá bem, Margus? So they are pronominal verbs. Okay, reading your comments to see. Okay, so I have a comment from Kitty using the verb dizer. Se você disser que eu desafino, I love this song, it is so beautiful. So this is a perfect way of using the verb dizer, right? If you say that, se você disser. Vou contar o dinheiro. Muito bom, Marcos. So this is interesting. I forgot to mention in the video that the verb contar also has a completely different meaning, which is to count, to literally count numbers, count money, count something. So this is also a very common use of the verb contar. Muito bom, Marco. Eu vou falar com ela. Muito bom. So in this context, the use of the verb falar is mandatory. Okay, we cannot say eu vou dizer com ela. So whenever you say a verb with the verb falar with the preposition com, falar com, like to speak with, to talk with, in this context, we don't use these verbs interchangeably. You have to use verb falar. Okay? So Brazilians will never say eu vou dizer com ela. It doesn't make any sense. So it's always eu vou falar com ela. Muito bom, Mohamed. É ótimo exemplo. Eu quero falar com você, vou te contar uma história. Muito bom, Zainab. Perfeito. Nós falamos com nossos amigos. Muito bom. Eu contei para ela sobre os meus desafios. Muito bom. To talk with the word sobre, we usually use verb falar here. Like this sentence sounds a little bit weird for me. I was thinking about why does it sound weird. It's because of the word sobre. When you say falar sobre, it is always the verb falar as well. So you can tell something. Você pode contar alguma coisa. Por exemplo, contar uma história. So contar, we don't use the verb contar with the preposition sobre. So a tip for you. So in this case, you could say, eu falei com ela sobre os meus desafios. I would use verb falar in this context. I know it is complicated, right? But if you translate into English, I think it will make sense. You could say, I talked with her about my, so it is the verb to talk, right? We're not say, I told her about, right? So in this case, verb contar, most of the times it is translated into English as the verb to tell. Muito bom, Olivia. Excelente. it's good to see your examples because then I can get all the I can explain better the nuances, because it is hard to tell, oh, you use this always and that. But so with the preposition com is falar com, and also with the preposition sobre, falar sobre. So verb falar is the most common one, actually. It's the verb that we use most of the time in Portuguese. Posso dizer que você é uma boa professora? Muito bom, excelente. Excelente. So I'm going to read some comments here on Instagram. So, George está dizendo, quero praticar meu português mais, eu falo espanhol. Que tips você tem para mim para melhorar meu português? So, that's also a very broad question. So, tips for learning Portuguese. I have so many videos about this, Georgie. I recommend you go to my YouTube channel and look. There is a playlist called Useful Tips. I give hundreds of tips about how to improve your Portuguese. Okay, so listening to podcasts, watching videos on YouTube or Netflix, so many things that you can do to practice and improve your Portuguese by yourself or with someone else. So recommend you take a look at my YouTube videos about that. I have a lot of tips how to do the techniques that I use to study by myself. I have videos about that, so recommend you go and take a look. So, muito bom, Janete, vou te falar, eu sinto saudade das suas aulas. Muito bom. So in this case, Janete, the verb sentir is not pronominal. You know, remember I was talking about pronominal verbs in a minute ago. So some verbs, they are pronominal in one sense, but they are not pronominal in another sense. So when you say eu me sinto is only when you're talking about most of the time this verb is not pronominal. So eu sinto saudade. So with the word saudade, you would not say eu me sinto saudade. No, it's eu sinto saudade. Eu sinto saudade das suas aulas, tá bem? So with the word saudade, we would not say me sinto. You would say me sinto if you said eu me sinto triste hoje. I'm feeling sad today. Then in this case, you could say eu me sinto. But with the word saudade, we would not say me sinto. We would just say, we would not use the pronoun. I know this topic of pronouns, it's complicated because there are no simple rules. You have to see case by case. Muito bom. Looking for more comments or questions. Exatamente. So you have corrected yourself. Muito bom. Excelente. Vamos continuar aqui. Minha filha me contou uma história interessante. Excelente. So this is the perfect way of using contar in the sense of telling a story, right? We use this verb a lot in this sense. Vou te contar, os olhos já não podem ver. Muito bom, Kitty. Excelente. So Zach, Virginia, did you say you have a podcast? What is that called? Yes, I have a podcast, but I don't publish. But the content of my podcast is the same content of my YouTube videos. But if you don't have time to sit down and watch the video, this is a very good way to study my content. You can just download the podcast. It is called the Speaking Brazilian Podcast. So the same name of my school, right? Speaking Brazilian. If you look for Speaking Brazilian Podcast, you find it. It is everywhere. It is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere you find it. And you can just listen on the go, or you can just go for a walk. That's how I listen to podcasts. I usually listen to podcasts when I'm walking or doing the dishes, and it's very useful because you can hear Portuguese. And usually I speak Portuguese very clearly. So even if you are beginner level, you can understand some of the words that I say. So I think I highly recommend my podcast for you guys. It is not different. The content is the same for my YouTube channel, but to watch the video, you have to sit down and and stop doing everything else. But podcast is very useful because you can listen to it while you do something else. Okay, so Speaking Brazilian, you find it everywhere. Muito bom, Mônica. Eu falo com meu tio uma vez por semana. Excelente. So eu disse com meus amigos ontem. So here, Christian, remember that I corrected someone before and I said that with the preposition com, we should use verb falar. So in this case, even though the verb falar and dizer They are most of the time interchangeable. In Brazil, we use them interchangeably, but not with the preposition com, to speak with. It sounds really weird to say eu disse com. It doesn't make, we wouldn't use this verb in this case. Então, eu falei com. Eu falei com meus amigos ontem. Eu falei. So in this case, the only option we have is verb falar. Okay, very good. Posso falar? Você sabe contar piadas? Muito bom. So this is also a very common use of the verb contar. Contar piadas, like to tell jokes. Eu digo ao meu namorado que eu o amo. Excelente, David. Perfeito. Você sabe como falar português? Muito bom. The word como here, you can say it, but it's optional. The most natural way of saying that in Portuguese would be, você sabe falar português? We just drop the word como. Você sabe falar português? I know the translation to English doesn't work well, but that's how we say in Portuguese. Maria tem muito medo de falar na frente da aula. Pablo disse bobagem na aula. Muito bom, excelente, Samira. Muito bom. Gosto de falar italiano, muito bom. So whenever we talk about speaking a language, is also always the verb falar. So as you guys can notice, the most common use of the verb, the most common verb is verb falar, right? Muito bom, excelente, gente. Do you have any questions about this? I won't read all the comments because there are a lot of comments, and I want to talk a little bit about the other topic, which is Cada dia and Todojia. So this is another video that I recorded. It was published 2 weeks ago. So the difference between the words cada and todo. Cada dia, todo dia. Which one to use? I've seen all the times my students making a lot of mistakes about that topic. That's why I made a video about that. If you have not watched the video, I recommend you do. So I want you to make also I want you to write sentences about it so I can see the details and help you with your Portuguese. How would you write a sentence using the phrases cada dia or todo dia, each day or every day? The tricky thing is that the translation into English and other languages is not perfect. So even though I said that cada dia means each day, not always we can use the phrase cada dia when you use each day in English. Doesn't work like that. So most of the time, this is one tip for you. If you're not sure, you should say todo dia, because 99% of the times we say todo dia instead of cada dia. Okay, so that's my tip for you. I've seen my students all the time saying cada dia when they should say todo dia. So if you're not sure, use the phrase todo dia. Now, what is the difference between todo dia and todos os dias? There is no difference. We use this two interchangeably in Portuguese. In colloquial spoken languages, it is more common to say todo dia in the singular form, but we use also todos os dias, so the meaning is the same, okay? Todo dia, toda semana, todo mês. You can say in singular or plural, okay? Muito bom, I'm gonna read some of the comments and see if you guys have questions. So there is one question here from Marcos. Qual é a melhor frase? Eu dirigi através do túnel, pelo túnel ou por meio do túnel? Oh, that's a good question. So I think the more natural for me, it's pelo túnel. Eu dirigi pelo túnel, or eu passei pelo túnel. We don't use the verb dirigir much in Portuguese. We usually use other verbs instead of dirigir. I don't know why. So I would say eu passei pelo túnel. It means like you went through the tunnel to get somewhere. Eu passei. So the verb passar pelo túnel, I think is the one that sounds more natural to me. Através is also correct. Por meio do túnel sounds very weird. So por meio, no. I know that the word através and por meio de, sometimes they are interchangeably used, right? But por meio de is more like by the means of, you know? So if you can translate as by the means of, then you can say por meio de. So we don't use that when you're passing through a place or by a place. We don't use the phrase por meio de. We use that in other contexts. Muito boa pergunta, Margus. Eu vou ao escritório todos os dias. Perfeito. Looking for questions. So a question from Ben. I really like Portuguese language as a singer-songwriter. What advice can you give to improve my songwriting lyrics in Portuguese to be more natural? Oh, that's a difficult question. I'm not sure how you can improve songwriting. I would say that the most important thing would be like listen and study a lot songs in Portuguese. So listen, but not only listen, but also read the lyrics in Portuguese and really study, because songwriting is tricky because it's not natural Portuguese. The songs, they are not written as we speak, right? They are poems. They are very poetic, so you can be more creative. So that's a very interesting thing, right? You don't have, sometimes you can make some rules, you can be very creative. And my recommendation to you would be to read and study Brazilian songs, the lyrics, and also, of course, listen to the songs so you can see how they pronounce the words, how they make the connections. So I really like using songs to study Portuguese, but I always tell my students that the songs, they are not written the way that we speak, okay? So they use a lot of poetic language. Sometimes they use verbs that we don't use in regular language. They use a lot of metaphors. So it's a different language, right? It's different from the language that we speak. So the more you read, my recommendation is read a lot of languages. You can find that a lot on Google. If you just type, there is one website called Letras, I don't remember the website, but something like Letra de Música, something like that, like song lyrics in Portuguese. You find a lot of lyrics there. Or if you just like a singer, you can just type the name of the song and the singer, you find the lyrics online. So yeah, I think that would help you. Very good. Ele vai trabalhando todo dia. There's something weird here, Mohammed. I think it is, if he goes to work every day, we would say ele vai trabalhar. So we don't use the verb ir with the gerund, with the ing in Portuguese. Okay, so ele vai trabalhar todo dia. Like he goes to work every day. Ele vai trabalhar todo dia. Muito bom. Eu trabalho todo dia, muito bom. Cada dia de salário é um dia de alegria, muito bom, Margos. Todos os dias acordo cedo. Excelente, Shannon. Tudo bom, Shannon? Saudade. Muito bom. Qual a maneira certa de dizer? Todo dia ficando mais frio e mais frio. So here there's just one verb missing. You could say, todo dia está ficando mais frio e mais frio. So that is correct. You're just missing the verb. Todo dia está ficando mais frio e mais frio. Tomo 3 cafés cada dia. So here, Monica, I would say todo dia. You see, I know it is tricky to know when to use todo dia or cada dia. Eu would say, eu tomo 3 cafés todos os dias. Ou todo dia eu tomo 3 cafés. 3 xícaras de café. I would say todo dia instead of cada dia. I would say cada dia if I said, cada dia eu tomo um café diferente. Like each day I try a different kind of coffee. Then I could say cada dia. But if I mean that every day I do the same thing, I should say todo dia or todos os dias. Muito bom. Looking for very good comments, guys. So don't feel bad if you made a mistake. That is how you learn, right? Because then I'll explain to you what is the right way of doing something so you can improve your Portuguese. It is good to make mistakes because that's how we learn. Cada sexta-feira eu vou pra praia. Muito bom, Cynthia. So he is also toda sexta-feira, not cada. I know, guys, it is complicated. So most of the time, it is todo or toda. We rarely use the word cada. The word cada in Portuguese is not used commonly, like as much as the word todo. So toda sexta-feira, like every Friday, toda sexta-feira eu vou pra praia. You could use the word cada if you're doing something different each Friday. So cada sexta-feira eu vou a uma praia diferente. So each Friday I go to a different beach. Then you could say cada. But if you do the same thing every Friday, you should say toda sexta-feira. Toda sexta-feira. Cada dia o sol nasce. Yeah, you could say todo dia. To say cada dia, you have to complement this phrase a little bit, like todo dia o sol, cada dia o sol nasce mais bonito. So if there is a progression, then you could say cada dia. So cada dia o sol nasce mais bonito. So each day the sun is more beautiful. Then the sunrise is more beautiful. So you could say cada dia in this context. But this phrase, there is something missing, the sentence, muito bom. Excelente. So Mohammed has a question about trazer and levar. I have a video about this on my YouTube channel. So this is also, I want to focus on the topics that I have today, but if you go to my YouTube channel, type trazer, levar, you find a video about that. So basically trazer means to bring, but we don't use these verbs just like in English. It is a little bit different as well. We always say trazer when you mean you're bringing something to the place where you are at the moment when you are speaking. And levar, we use this for everything else. So levar is much more common than trazer, but if you're talking about bringing something to the place where you are right now when you are speaking, then you should use verb trazer. So that's a very simple, fast explanation about these verbs. Muito bom, gente. Questions about cada and todo? I know it is not, it's complicated. Do you have any questions about this topic, about how to use todo and cada? Muito bom, muito bom. If you have questions, if I have not seen your question, just copy and paste so I can see it. Look in here. Okay, guys, and the last topic that I mentioned, that I talked about the video before that, was the topic about the difference between the words meio and meia. So this is a funny topic because even Brazilians sometimes use these words in the way that is not the most correct way. So meio and meia, write me a sentence using one of these words. Meio, meia. Meio, meia. Both words can be used in many different ways. So if you know how to use these words, write me a sentence and I'll try and I'll read some of your comments and try to help you with that. Also, if you want to learn more about any of these topics that I'm talking about, there are videos on my YouTube channel. So if you have not watched the video, I recommend you watch them, and you can also type a question in the comments. I usually try to answer the questions, and I can also bring your questions and answer your question in the next Q&A. Okay, just let me see. So Zainab, the difference between todo dia and todos os dias, there is no difference. The meaning is exactly the same. Todo dia is very common in colloquial language. I do that. Eu faço isso todo dia. I do that every day. So we do that a lot. The meaning is the same. There is no difference in meaning. In colloquial language, the singular one is very, very common. But both ways are correct, okay? What else? Any other question before we finish our Q&A, guys? Or write a comment using the words meio and meia so I can help you with that. O uso de cada e todo é o mesmo que em espanhol, no entanto, em espanhol a gente não tem tudo. Oh, very good comment. So yeah, in Portuguese, that's a totally different topic, right? The difference between todo and tudo. They're similar words. I also have a video about that on my YouTube channel. Yeah, the difference is actually very simple. Muito bom. Okay, reading, seeing if you have comments. I don't know this word. I don't think that's a word. You mean Gia? Gia. So this is interesting. The D-I, when you have the letter D in Portuguese before the letter I, we pronounce it as G. G. This is the most common pronunciation, but there are variations in Brazil. As you know, Brazil is big. We have many different accents, and the letter D varies a little bit. So in some places, people would say dia, but the most common pronunciation is Gia, Gia. Bom dia, bom dia, okay? Meia dúzia de ovos, muito bom. So whenever you use the word meia to talk about half something, it is meia, meia. Muito bom. Meia dúzia. Actually, when it's half, you have to agree the gender, right? So if you're talking about a masculine noun, you should use meio. If you're talking about a feminine noun, you should use meia. So in this case, it varies because it works as an adjective or as a numeral. It varies. Estive trabalhando meio-dia, mas descansei meia-manhã. So here I would say eu trabalhei meio-dia. So here I would say eu trabalhei instead of estive trabalhando. Descansei meia-manhã. Muito bom. So you work half a day and you rested half the morning, right? Muito bom. So in this case, the word of meio and meia is perfect. So you have to agree with the noun. So meio-dia, dia is a masculine noun. Meia-manhã, manhã is a feminine noun. Excelente. Muito bom. Meio-dia e meia, exatamente. So this is interesting because meio-dia, meio refers to the word dia, which is masculine, and meia means half an hour, e meia hora. But we don't say meia hora, just say meio-dia e meia. But this word is meia, is feminine because it refers to the word hora, which is a feminine word. Essa estátua fica no meio do nada. Muito bom. In the middle of nowhere. No meio do nada. So we also use the word meio, the masculine word, when it means in the middle. No meio. Muito bom. Yes, the word meio has many, many different meanings. Also, the word meia has different meanings. So this is tricky, right? But I explain all the details in my video if you have, so you can watch it if you have not watched yet. Muito bom, gente. Excelente. So this is a good question. O dia todo ou todo dia? So the meanings are different. If you say o dia todo, it means the entire day. The whole day, the entire day. If you say todo dia, it means every day. Every day. So todo dia without the o. Todo dia, todos os dias means every day. Todo o dia or o dia todo means the entire day. The entire day. Tá bem? Muito bom. So my friend explained that a lot of words in Portuguese that end with the letter O is pronounced more like an U, like a U sound. Yes, that is correct. So it's a very weak U sound, like as the word todo. Todo is written T-O-D-O. Todo. Todo. But you don't pronounce todo. Like some people do, but the most common pronunciation is todo. Todo. U. It's a very weak U sound at the end. So that happens at the end of words when the syllable is weak. Okay, weak syllable. So the word todo, the stressed syllable is the first one. The second one is weak. So that happens because it is a very weak O sound. It becomes a U. Todo. Todo. It's very weak. You can barely hear it. Very good question. Muito bom, gente. Okay, so this was amazing. I hope this Q&A was useful for you. We covered a lot of things. So what is the word for half? Is metade or meio or meia? So I read some examples about the word meio or meia used as half, right? You can say metade or you can say meio or meia depending on the context. So I recommend you watch the videos to study all this content that we covered today. It's a lot of content. And guys, I have so many videos on my YouTube channel, almost 200 videos. So many times I read comments on my YouTube comments section and people say, oh, you should make a video about this and that, but I already have a video about that. So if you're not sure, just go to my YouTube channel and click on there. If you go to my channel, there is a search tool. Just click there and type the topic that you're looking for. There are so many videos available. And also take a look at the playlist so you can study this material that is available for you for free. Okay, guys? So I see that someone is asking when I have courses starting. My next classes start in September and the enrollment will be open in August. Okay, so to receive notifications about these Q&As and my free courses and also my paid courses, go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. If you received my email today, you are in my newsletter list, so don't worry about that. But if you have not received my email, you should join my newsletter so you receive notifications about my courses. Tá bem, gente? Foi prazer estar aqui. A big pleasure to be here with you today. Nos vemos next month. I'll see you next month, first week of July. Tá bem? Um beijo grande e até a próxima. Tchau, tchau! Ok.